All right. Welcome into the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, thank you so much for tuning in to us. Zach and I talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange podcast. If you want to listen to that regularly, the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify is where you need to go. When you get there, rate, review. But you got to make sure that you subscribe. If you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays. Speaking of Mondays, it's not one right now because it's Tuesday, but that's okay because Josh Hypel spoke today. We got plenty to talk about. But if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel, then it won't matter when we go live, when we do the show, when we drop it, because if you go there, subscribe, hit that notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live, and then you won't miss a thing. You can join in, be a part of the show, talk with us, converse back and forth, tell Zach about how he's the king of clickbait and that he needs to go back and cheer for another team if you don't like what, I don't know. But at A to Z Sports, at Zach DNT, at Charlie_Burris. You know where to find us on social media if you're here. A to Z Sports.com for everything that Zach writes on the internet. And I guess, well, we can talk about that in a second, Zach. But what's up, man?
Yeah, it's I heard Boo Carter wanted someone else to host this show tonight, but here I am. So it's me.
You did make a bit of a I don't know what's the right word, a skirmish, a hullabaloo. Is the right word?
Yeah.
By say, I'll say, explain yourself, Zach. You wrote an article that was called, something along the lines of, well, you honestly, you know better. You wrote the thing.
It's something. What was the headline now? Something like Tennessee names its starting quarterback. Boo Carter was hoping a different quarterback would win the competition. I've wrote, thousands of articles, over the last decade plus, 12 years, however long I've been doing this. Sometimes you write stuff and you kind of know the reaction it's going to get, and whatever, like that's kind of the business, right? Like you're trying to create conversations. That's my mindset, at least. I know a lot of people have different motives for why they write things, why they do things. I'm always of the mindset, this is almost 100% of the time, I just write about things I find interesting, and if other people find it interesting and insightful, great. If not, move on to the next thing, I guess, is kind of my mindset. But that one was not one that I thought anyone was really, honestly, I didn't think many people would even pay attention to it. I didn't know if people would be interested or not. My thought was, I remember Boo Carter saying that stuff back in April and writing about it then. And with everything that went on with him over the summer, I was just like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting callback to what he said back in April. Like he seemed like he was a big fan of Jake Merklinger. Maybe this comes up later in the season, and it's something that's fresh in everybody's mind because I wrote about it, and it's like, oh yeah, Boo said that about the quarterbacks. Maybe, if Merklinger just comes out of nowhere and ends up being the guy after Aguilar was going to be the guy, kind of like in 21 with Hooker and Milton. So that was my only thought process behind it. Whatever got people riled up, I'm not really sure what nerve it touched, but yeah, it certainly seemed to.
He said verbatim, speaking of Jake Merklinger, he's got to compete with new transfer coming in, but hopefully my boy Jake gets the job done. I mean,
yeah,
I read it and I was like, I really like you massaged it a little bit to get the clicks. It's literally your job. It's how you get paid. But also I read it and I was like, I mean, he kind of said that, like,
and he wasn't. I mean, we know that he wasn't really around the team much this summer either, so he wasn't around Joey Aguilar. So it's probably, has his opinion changed that much? It's not like he's working with the offense at this point either, because he's trying to work his way back into the good graces of the team. So I don't know if his opinion's changed or not. Really, I think he's probably just focused on trying to stay on the team and be a part of the team at this point. I hope that's what his focus is, but he wasn't around Aguilar at all. So I don't know. I'm interested. I ended up muting one of the tweets because it was just, there's like some of you people are mean and just downright
vitriolic.
Like, yes,
they got mean with me. I tweeted something completely separate. Just like it was something about the price increases that we're going to talk about in just a second. And people were coming to me being like, "You need to worry about your co-host Zach and the stupid things he writes on the internet." Like, bro, calm down, everybody.
Like I love conversation. I love, I look, you learn. I don't think I have. I'm not saying that I'm right about anything I ever write. I might feel strongly about it, but I'm always open to hearing whatever. Right? Like that's how you learn. That's how you grow. You consider other viewpoints. You consider other things that you hear and that other people think and the way they see things. So I'm always open to any of that stuff and hearing why people have different ideas, why they didn't like it, this or that. I don't mind that at all. I welcome it. I mean, that's how it's just how you get better as a person, I think. But kind of some of the meanness and the hate directed at people. I guess that's just social media in general. But what are we doing? Let's just be nice. We don't need
Get it together, Zach. Stop with your filthy clickbaiting nonsense. All right. Well, with that out of the way, you're able to speak your piece. Let's get into the show tonight. We're going to kind of do news and notes first from fall camp and the things that have been going on. And then, as I mentioned in the YouTube headline, we're going to talk about some bold predictions we have at the most important positions on this team for Tennessee. But I guess first and foremost, the thing that probably got people heated in the same way that Zach's articles get people heated was this price increase that that happened 4% price increase. Well, and I guess we should start here. This story kind of got caught in limbo in between our last week's show and now. Tennessee announced that that they're switching to Adidas in 2026, switching back to Adidas from Nike. $200 million deal over 10 years, $20 million a year in cash and other considerations like apparel and things. And I mean that's massive. We didn't give our take on it. Lucas Panzica made a video about it here on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. And I think everybody's been talking about it, kind of speaking their piece. My take on it was, I'm not a huge gear guy, so I'm not the best person to ask about this. I want these teams to wear the uniforms that they win championships in. And as long as that's the case, excellent. And Tennessee gets creative control over the uniforms. Although some of the gearheads that I've talked to said that the apparel historically is not as good. And I guess I'm sorry about that in advance. But to me personally, let's go win football games, and it's great that you get $20 million.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm not a huge Nike versus Adidas guy. Like if I had a choice, I'm going to choose Nike. I don't hate Adidas by any means. I probably own way more Nike stuff than I do Adidas stuff, but that's a small thing to me. I think it's a smart move because it's the better financial move. And you're the flagship brand, college brand, I guess, of Adidas, and that's kind of what Adidas sold Tennessee on. I think that's really big, right? I mean, right now it's all about the exposure, getting the eyes on you. College football is so different. I know it's just so different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We all know that, but it's such a year-to-year deal now. You don't really like Tennessee's this season. And I know we'll get into this conversation this week and next week, but we don't know what to expect. It could be an 8-4 year, 8-5 year, and that's just how it goes because of the circumstances. That used to be okay, and it'll be okay for Tennessee this year because I think people understand the situation, and we'll see what happens. But most teams aren't getting the luxury of going 8-5. Like if you're a big brand and you go 8-5 after you went to the playoff, all of a sudden your coach is on the hot seat in a lot of circumstances, which is crazy. I think that's absolutely insane because there's variables that come up that are out of your control that might just tank your season, like the Nico stuff or different situations like that, injuries, whatever might happen, coaches leaving. So it's really crazy, the culture of the sport right now, but that's why it's as important as ever to have as many eyes on you in a positive way. Being the brand, the college brand for Adidas, I think will be huge for recruiting, transfer portal, stuff like that, NIL deals. I know Adidas is going to have a hand in that, and that'll be helpful for Tennessee. So I think it was just one of those moves that I don't think it's like, oh, man, we want to wear Adidas instead of Nike. It was just like, man, this is too good to pass up for the program and what we need right now. So I think it was probably a tough decision as far as leaving Nike and everybody loving Nike so much, including the athletes and the student athletes. But it's what Danny White had to do in the university.
Yeah, I think outside of the folks that are picky about the gear that they purchase, it's pretty much good for everybody. You get the extra money. You get a really nice NIL setup, the exposure with being the flagship brand for Adidas, all these things. I mean, it just works for you in a lot of different ways that Nike wasn't going to work for you. So I'm all for it, and just leave the gray uniforms from the Butch Jones era in the trash can, please. That's all I ask. Do not bring any of that garbage back. Frankly, you could get rid of the smoky gray altogether, and I would be a-okay. I like the black. I like the black uniforms.
Yeah.
Very cool. The smoky gray, I guess I like the military tie-in this season.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I could take it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm not huge on the smoky gray. Like, they're fine. I'm not. Like you said earlier, just go win. I mean, that's ultimately all I care about. But I'm,
whatever that is.
Tennessee's traditional uniforms are so great. It's almost like you only get 12 Saturdays a year, regular season Saturdays a year. I want to see those classic Tennessee uniforms most of the time. And I do like the black whenever they have the night home game and close to Halloween. Obviously, that's a great thing. I hope that continues. But you can leave the smoky grays behind, and I would be just fine with that. Also, another small uniform note, which I don't think we've talked about, Mississippi State's going to have a whiteout for their game in Starkville when they play Tennessee in late September, which means Tennessee will likely maybe be all orange. They're going to have to wear road uniforms. So that would be interesting if they do that. They have worn the smoky grays on the road before, when they went to Baton Rouge in 22. So that maybe the smoky grays come out then. I don't know what the plans are, but that'd be interesting that they won't be wearing white on the road in that game.
I love the all orange. That's one of my absolute favorite uniforms. I would not mind it at all. But so that was big news that we kind of missed last week. And then David Collins in the comments, he asked, we missed on Savion Hyder. What are the chances that we get Tristan Keys? Well, on that note, just a few days after announcing a $200 million deal that affects NIL and player pay, revenue sharing, and all of those things, Tennessee announces a 4% price increase on tickets. They got to put their hands even deeper into your pockets, of course. Is a 4% price increase that bad at the end of the day? Not necessarily. But you stack all of that on top of the fees and things that you have to buy just to acquire those tickets. There's, what is the tax in Tennessee? 13% or some garbage. It's just ridiculous. Entertainment tax or something. And then you have the 10% talent fee. Speaking of NIL, 10% talent fee, which clearly went to good use with Savion Hyder. We'll talk about that in a second. And then 4% price increase. And then there were these price increases with basketball tickets that we heard about, people getting priced out of their seats, all of these things where it just makes me go, Danny, like, you're doing a great job, bud. Really, seriously. Best AD Tennessee's had since the 90s. You're doing an excellent job overall. Cool it, though, with this type of stuff. Seriously. A freaking beer at the game is $18 or whatever, and a hot dog's $40. I don't even know what it is at this point, but it's absolutely ridiculous. It's so much that I don't know what the prices are because I refuse to pay them. And, it's like it's marginal, but at a certain point, I said this to somebody on Twitter when I was talking about this. Like, I know people that make good livings that are being priced out where they're just like, it's just too much. It's too much to spend $800 to go, to a game. If I'm coming from Nashville, I got to get $300 a night hotel, spend $400 on my tickets, and then the whole thing, and then pay to eat and stay and stuff. So it just feels like at some point, when are we going to stop? When are we going to cool it with the price increases? Because it makes plenty of sense. Inflation is crazy. Everybody's paying more for everything. We know. But dude, can we not? Can we not for a single year? And this is true pretty much across the board, sort of everywhere. But you're a 7-5 season from having empty seats all inside of Neyland. Like, it's that tenuous. It's that close where, yeah, you're going to get greedy now when everybody's buying the tickets. The demand is there. They say there's a 25,000 person waiting list. I am the stinking king of England, if that's actually true. But regardless,
That's a big number. That's a real big number.
that's a big number, boy. But demand is there. But let's say he goes 6-6, 7-5 this season. That demand's not going to be there overnight, instantly, and you're gouging people. So it's a little bit of a diatribe for me. And then of course, we got to have for the revenue sharing and the players and all of these things. Well, it wasn't enough to get Savion Hyder. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But I don't know what you think about that, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it. It's super expensive to go to any sporting event, pro, college, whatever it is. It's not cheap, and this is happening everywhere. So it's not just a Tennessee thing. I think the timing of it's not great after you have this big deal with Adidas announced, and I know those two things don't like necessarily go hand in hand with budgets, and I don't know how that works for Tennessee, but I know that there's different pots that the money comes from, obviously. But still, the optics of that are not great when you've got this money coming in from that, and then less than a week later you send this email out. So I think the timing could have been better. At the same time, I mean, I understand Tennessee's side of it to some extent. I mean, these rosters are getting expensive, and it's not just football. It's basketball, it's baseball, it's women's basketball, it's softball, it's other non-revenue sports too that you want to fund. I mean, you want to be this everything school, and we've talked about this a lot. Is it sustainable to be an everything school? Well, only if you have the money to fund it. And I don't know how much money Tennessee has to throw at these things, but clearly it seems like they feel like they need more. I think Danny White knows this fan base. I think Danny White's very self-aware. He definitely understands fans are not happy about this and that they did not react well to this news. He did a little damage control on Twitter.
Yep.
But I don't think it's like Danny being I don't know what the right way to put this is. I don't think he was doing this to be greedy. I don't think he's doing this to put extra money in his pocket. I mean, yes, I know he's making a good living too as Tennessee's athletic director. I think he feels like this is what's needed to keep up with the Georgias and not just keep up, to catch those programs, especially in football. I mean, Tennessee's still catching up to those guys, and these rosters are just going to get more expensive. And if Tennessee does go 7-5, you're going to need even more money to convince some of these guys to come sign with your school. Here in the next couple of years, Tennessee's got to have to start sending players to the NFL to do, really well, or you're going to have to kind of pay a tax on that because you're going to be recruited against. It's like, hey, you haven't put a quarterback in the NFL that started yet. Josh Hypel from Tennessee. Stuff like that, wide receivers, things like that. Like you talk about Tristan Keys, and we'll get to that in a minute. You're going to have to pay to get that guy, period, this year. And if Tennessee's wide receivers don't do well this year, you're going to have to pay even more to get those kinds of guys in the future because you're going to have to overcome the recruiting pitches from the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Ohio States and schools like that. So it's just the state of college football right now, which is crazy. I mean, these TV deals got so expensive. It kind of changed the landscape of the sport from conference alignment to postseason to that's constantly changing now. Conference schedules, all of that's backed, because of TV, because they want the best product to put on TV so advertisers pay. It's all about money, right? And that's trickling down to the fans, and the fans are the ones that are suffering because you see, certain traditions getting done away with, big games that you never thought you'd see go away, teams and conferences that just don't make any sense, like the ACC that spread it all across the country. The SEC now going from this very regional thing to where now you got Missouri and Texas teams and Oklahoma, and now in the SEC, and you don't have the East and West divisions anymore like we did for over 30 years. It's changed a lot, and money is the reason why. And it's not what it was in the 80s and 90s. It's big business, even bigger business now, and it's basically like trying to go to an NFL game and live that, because if even it might even be more expensive, honestly.
It probably is. And probably where I take the most, I don't know what the word is, umbrage with the whole thing is that like Hypel is not a big spender. It doesn't seem like overall with recruiting and transfer portal, especially in the transfer portal.
I
The
think
man
it's
does not get in,
retaining.
and yet, and maybe it is, and it'd be great to know what any of those contracts, deals look like. Who knows? But he has not shown that he's that super flashy, go out and get the absolute biggest name guy. He's much recruits to a culture rather than to just the stars. And we've said it so much on this show. Elite talent, elite talent, elite talent. You have to. There are coaches that suck that have won national championships because they just had elite talent. Like purely, you can
The
ride
last
that.
couple of LSU coaches that
Exactly. I mean, stinking Gene
Gene
Chizik
Chizik.
at Auburn. Oh my gosh. Like you've had bozos that have won national championships because they can get elite guys in the door. I mean, I would almost say I don't think that he was a good coach for a very long time. But I look back at the Fulmer era here, and honestly, was he a revolutionary, really just squeezing blood out of a rock type of a coach? No, he was not. He had elite dudes upon elite dudes,
And he had
especially on defense.
David Cutcliffe. That was huge too.
Especially on defense. And then when you had David Cutcliffe at OC to run that stuff, he wins national titles. So, yeah, I mean, you look back in the history of Tennessee and you can see that being true. And Hypel that's just not his game. And it scares me for the future because I think he is a guy that gets results above the talent level of the players that he has. And that's what makes me go, oh, if you could just get a Savion Hyder. And I'll say that, like, if you miss on Tristan Keys, now it's looking a little bit better for Tristan Keys than Hyder. But I could almost see that because you do have a little bit of the goofy stuff that's happened with the wide receivers here where you sort of get the, we're not totally prepared for the NFL. It's different concepts from the NFL. It's not, it's not the perfect A to B for getting to that pro level with Hypel's offense. But with the running backs, you get endless touches here. I mean, if you had a season like last year with Dylan Sampson, they give you the ball so much that he was run into the ground by the end of the year. I mean, Hypel's a run first guy at this point. And an elite back in this offense would be so intriguing and just fascinating to see because I think it would just be such a powerful weapon. It would be incredible to unlock that. And I'm really surprised they haven't. I don't know, it's really up in the air. Jason asks, other than money, why do you think we missed on Hyder? I mean, the kid's from Virginia, so location is not necessarily a big. You're closer than Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I mean, they got supposedly they have Portnoy and Ellison money up there, which that's nearly bottomless pockets, but. I mean, you got billionaires too. I don't know.
From what some of the recruiting guys said, and look, Hyder was strange. He was almost like Arch Manning in the fact that he was very quiet about his recruitment. He wasn't out there doing a ton of interviews. He kept things very close to the vest. But all the reports were that Michigan and Tennessee's NIL deals were above, or NIL offers were above the other programs that were in it, like Ohio State and Georgia's, for Hyder. And I can't remember who it was now. Maybe it was somebody from On 3 said they didn't think that NIL money was going to sway this battle one way or the other for Tennessee or Michigan. So I don't think it was just money. I mean, both schools were going to have to pay to get him. So I don't know. I mean, I guess he just really liked the culture and the coaching staff up there. That's fine. They're coming off a national championship a couple years ago. That was a different coach. I don't know how recruits view that sort of thing. Maybe that made an impact on him. Aside from that, though, you've got, that school was hit. They just lost $20 million with the fine they received from the NCAA. So that's going to impact the talent they can acquire to some extent, I'm sure. I think they're on probation. Maybe there's no postseason ban or anything which is crazy because they cheated. I mean, they straight up cheated, like more than any college team has cheated in our lifetimes. They did something that was blatantly against the rules, and it impacted games, and that's crazy that they didn't get a postseason ban or a harsher punishment than they did. But whatever, it is what it is. If they had, maybe that would have tipped this in Tennessee's favor. I don't know. I don't know if Tennessee could have done much more to get Savion Hyder. I don't know if it was they need to build a better relationship with him. If his family just liked Michigan, if and sometimes guys just fit, they just fit somewhere, and there's really no rhyme or reason. And unless you're on those visits or kind of in those private conversations, it won't make sense to you. So, I think Tennessee's putting its best foot forward when it comes to recruiting right now. You've seen them land some big guys. You've seen them go after some big names, and they're getting better. I mean, that's one of those slow builds. It's hard if you want to build sustainable success in recruiting. You saw Butch Jones try to take shortcuts, and that, crashed out very quickly on him. I think Hypel's tried to do this the right way. You start, and we saw this at Clemson too with Dabo. You start getting top 15, top 10 classes consistently, and you just slowly creep up with the rankings as you have better and better years. So it's just a slow build for Tennessee right now, I think. But I'm not blaming the staff because I don't know exactly what happened with Hyder, but
no,
that was a tough one. You really thought Tennessee had a chance. I think they really did have a chance, and the kid just went elsewhere at the end of the day. But who knows what happens down the road? Maybe Michigan has a really bad year and the head coach gets fired and he flips in the early signing period. Maybe he goes there for a year like Amari Jefferson did in Alabama and says, it's not for me, and hits the portal, and you've already built that relationship with him. So you lose him for now. We'll see what happens down the road. Yeah, recruiting kind of doesn't stop for these guys just because they commit somewhere.
Yeah, with how little he spoke to anybody at all. I mean, it was impressive how little that kid said to anybody.
Which I respect. I mean, that's probably the best way to go about it.
That's rare.
Yeah.
I mean, with how that went, it's hard to say exactly what the reasoning is there. When it comes to Tristan Keys, to kind of wrap up the recruiting discussion for now, you do seem to be in a better position, but that's got to be an uphill battle. I'm sure LSU is hanging on for dear life. They're going to do everything that they can, and it's getting the kid over that hurdle of actually flipping, of finally making that call and being like, well, I could just go to LSU, but I'd rather go to Tennessee. And will that actually happen? I don't know. And it's not like I don't think he's going to set some commitment date like that. It doesn't seem like. I feel like if he was going to decommit, he would have already done that.
Yeah. I agree with Chris too. I would rather have Keys than Hyder. I think you can, kind of your conversation earlier, you can get by with some, I want to say non-elite running backs, because I think Dylan Sampson was an elite running back. Yeah. But you can get by with guys that aren't, top running back in the nation type talents in this offense and get really good results. We've seen it 4 years now at Tennessee. I mean, last year after watching Jeremiah Smith in the college football playoff, and I'm not saying Tristan Keys is Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith is generational, but Ryan Williams, guys like that, Ryan Wingo down at Texas, Auburn had a true freshman receiver, Coleman, I believe, that made an impact last season. You need, talented wide receivers to step in young and make an impact instantly in college football, it seems. And Tristan Keys, he's the top receiver in the country, dynamic player, future NFL guy, right? I mean, that's the kind of guy you want in this offense that hopefully with the right quarterback could, have a Dylan Sampson type season at wide receiver, like even better than what you saw from Hyatt a couple years ago. The problem for Tennessee is that LSU has had so much success recently with receivers. Yeah. From, the Ogeron era with Burrow, with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase when they were there, to even in recent years under Brian Kelly with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Like, they've shown they can get those guys to the NFL, and then those guys go to the NFL and they have instant success. The last 2 seasons, Tennessee's wide receivers haven't played well, at Tennessee. They haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Jalen Hyatt in 22. None of these guys have really found much success in the NFL yet. Velus Jones kind of, fizzled out in Chicago pretty quickly and is just kind of trying to reinvent himself as kind of like a running back, returner type guy. Hyatt struggled with the Giants. Tillman had some success with the Browns. I'm interested to watch him this season. He got hurt last year, so he missed like the last 6-7 games of the year. Didn't really get to build on what he had accomplished. maybe he takes off, but they just don't have the results to sell that LSU does. On the flip side, though, I think Tristan Keys has a really good relationship with Tennessee. There's the Adidas factor. He's already signed an NIL deal with Adidas. Maybe that helps Tennessee out there some. I think, and who knows, Tristan Keys might flip here in 5 minutes to Tennessee later in the week, later in the season. We don't know. I don't think this battle is going to be over regardless, though, until he signs somewhere in December. I think he wants to see what happens this season. I think he wants to see what happens at LSU. If Texas A&M still hanging around in there, too. I think he wants to see if Tennessee's receivers show significant improvement this season. I think there's a lot of information he still wants before he makes a final decision.
Yeah, rightfully so on his part, because I think Tennessee and LSU are both teams this season. Texas A&M also. All teams that I think could really impress this season, or the wheels could come spectacularly flying off. There's a lot of variation that could happen there between three. We'll see. It's just going to be a waiting game with any of that. No announcement day, no nothing. There's been a few days where it's like I've heard maybe today's the day that Tristan Keys, yeah, and it just hasn't happened. So yeah, we'll find out soon enough. Anything else before we move on to kind of the final segment that's the actual name segment of the show, Zach, with the news and notes this week?
Yeah, no, it's football time now. Let's talk about this football team because it's this is our mock game week is what they call it, and then next week's the real thing, man. We got to start preparing for Syracuse, and we got to start doing our research and our preparation to get ready for that Saturday game, hydration, all that stuff.
Both Tennessee and Syracuse named their starting quarterbacks. Tennessee going, of course, as we've been saying, Joey Aguilar will be your starter, as was suspected kind of from the day that he showed up almost. And then Steve Angeli, who Tennessee looked at during the spring after Nico bounced. He's going to be the starter for Syracuse. But here's what I want to do, Zach. Just two of these on for each side of the ball. I want bold predictions. Just a bit. Hey, call your shot for two players or something that you think is going to happen with the offense and the defense. Two instances, and just make it pretty good. Make it interesting. Like obviously, who was it? 3 years ago at this point. Jalen Hyatt's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. Nobody would have ever thought that. That would have been a bold prediction before the season. And yet, here we are. So, I'll throw it to you, Zach, for the very first one to kick us off. Shock and awe. What do you have for us? We're going to save these, and then after the season, we're going to embarrass ourselves with how wrong they are. What do you think, Zach?
You want to do offense first here?
Oh, yes, and I meant to say that. Yes, offense
so
first.
Two players, two predictions for offense?
I guess go with one first, and then I can.
Okay. Yeah. And my first one, I think, is that I think Travis Smith, true freshman wide receiver, will lead this team in receiving touchdowns. I don't know that he'll lead in receiving yards. I think that'll still probably be Mike Matthews or Braylon Staley, maybe out of the slot if they can stay healthy. I think Travis Smith's a guy that in the red zone is going to solve some of those red zone issues because he's such a big target. He loves jump balls, and before he arrived at Tennessee last winter, he said his goal for his true freshman season was 1,000 receiving yards and 10 receiving touchdowns. Lofty goal, but I like it. I think he'll get the touchdowns.
I like that a lot. Very excited about Travis Smith and the potential there for him. I think that's awesome. One that I won't count this, but I do really feel like Staley or Mike Matthews could be the breakout guy that finally gets us back over 1,000-yard receiver. I honestly, you just have a higher end talent in those guys than you had the last 2 years, and I'm excited to see if they can actually meet some of those expectations. And I mean, specifically Mike Matthews more than anybody, but I think Staley, if he can be healthy, apparently he's still not fully practicing, but
he was back out there today, supposedly in some capacity. We will never know what capacity that was, but he was out there, which could just mean he walked across the field while they were practicing. I don't know.
Nothing bugs me more in a Josh Hypel press conference than when he says he was with us today.
Yeah.
Oh, that's his phrase. When you go, did Mike Matthews practice today? And Hypel goes, he was with us. He was with us. Well, he was with you like how like God is with us in this like in
It is.
this
He
room,
is.
like an
He's the
omnipotent
master.
being.
Not to get sidetracked here. This is a very quick aside. I think it was Rob Lewis, maybe of VolQuest. It might have been somebody else. Apologies if it was. I thought they asked one of the best questions that I've heard Hypel asked all year by a reporter. He asked about the offense and kind of, I mean, the struggles, but it's like you've been running the ball more. You've been having to lean on your defense. You were more offensive minded, explosive these first couple of years. Has that been because of personnel? Has it been because of how defenses are playing you, or has it been a philosophy change? Great question. I think that's an excellent question. And Heupel gave the most word salad answer of just defensive structures and playing to strengths and in certain situations. Just the most non-answer ever. It could have been a insightful answer. I'd get Heupel's end of it, but yeah, he's not going to give you much.
It is painful sometimes, man. Just he was with us. That's so annoying. But all right, so one for me. I don't even know if this is necessarily bold per se, but I think you will have Star Thomas be your touchdown back. I think he'll be the guy that gets to collect all the touchdowns this season. I was trying to think of the number. What did Sampson hit last year? It was
22.
I don't think he's gonna get 22. That's a crazy
Jabari
number.
Small was a touchdown vulture that year, wasn't he? In 2022, all those long touchdowns that passes that Hooker would complete, that they go down at like the 3, and Jabari Small would clean it up for him.
I think Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop are your sort of every down back, and then they go, all right, we're at the 3-yard line. Star Thomas, and he racks up 18 touchdowns this season. Like, just hits a really big number. Maybe has 3 in one game, gets an SEC Offensive Player of the Week or something. I think he's going to be a fun addition. Heard good things coming out of camp about him. So and obviously the real veteran in that room out of everybody that you have, I believe he's a 5th-year guy. So I'll say that about the rushing game. He's I like that. He's the touchdown vulture for this season. What's your second for the offense?
Yeah, my second one's also my second one is has to do with the running backs as well, but it is different than yours, and it can coexist with yours. Everybody's thinking Deshaun Bishop's going to be kind of the lead guy, and I like Deshaun Bishop. What a surprise that guy's been. I think Peyton Lewis leads this team in rushing yards in 2025. Ooh. I think he's worked on his body. I think he's faster. I think he's stronger. I think his mentality's in the right place. He seems like he understands the opportunity ahead of him if he can stay healthy and stay out there. I think he's the most talented guy of those 3. I like Bishop. I like Star Thomas. I think they have their strengths, but I think Peyton Lewis is the most overall talented guy of that group. So I think he'll be the guy that emerges and has the most rushing yards on this team.
I like that a lot. Yes. I'm kind of excited to go back to the running back by committee setup and spread out those carries more. But yeah, dude, he's an absolute burner, and I think you're going to get special things out of him. I'll say this. At some point in the season, Joey Aguilar will be in. You will see him on a graphic. I don't think he's going to be Heisman Finals. I won't go that far. But I think you will see him on a graphic at some point for the current top 10 guys for the Heisman Trophy. He will pop up there at some point in the season because of some very solid performances that he puts together. Maybe it's he just racks it up against Syracuse and everybody goes, oh my gosh, they beat Syracuse by 40 points. And here he's top 10 Heisman guy. But at some point in the season, he pops up on one of those Heisman watch lists. I don't think I can go as far as he's going to be Heisman finalist. That would be a spectacular season. You probably have to go 10-2. I don't think this team's personally at the moment. I don't think this team's going 10-2, but I'll say he gets a little Heisman talk this year because he puts on some nice performances.
Oh, that would certainly be a welcome sight because we need that quarterback position to really take off this season. And yeah, we haven't talked about that a whole lot. And I know we're got you to the defense real quick, but the more I think about Joey Aguilar at quarterback, the more I'm really excited just because of, kind of what he's been through. I think that guy, the way he competes, Nico's biggest weakness, and we said it a bunch, was his timidness. He was so slow to process because I think he was so afraid of making a mistake that he couldn't just compete in the moment. When you watch Tim Tebow or Johnny Manziel, like those guys were just so in the moment. And Hendon Hooker in 22, I think that's what really unlocked him and made him a great player for Tennessee. I think Aguilar is kind of naturally that kind of guy. I don't think he's going out there worried about making mistakes. He's just trying to make a play. And I think this offense will really work to his strengths and cut down on those interceptions. And as long as he can stay healthy and as long as the receivers help him out, I think I don't know about Heisman type stuff, but I think he can have a really good year for Tennessee.
I think he can. And I thought it was a great point. You saw the film guy from YouTube. His name is escaping me. Brooks Austin. Yeah. Clip sort of went viral on Tennessee Twitter of him showing what could have been a touchdown throw against Ohio State with Nico, and he doesn't make the throw, and he just scrambles for a few yards. And Brooks Austin basically goes, Joey Aguilar would be the guy who would rip this downfield because he's that fun and gun guy that's just going to go for it. And, it would be such a welcome sight to see that again. Of course, you got to land the throw. Nico was overthrow Nico last year, a year after overthrow Joe. But yeah, still, I'm excited to see somebody who truly goes for it, and I hope they just let the kid go. Let the man play football, and don't just put the brakes on everything just because not sure we totally trust him. He's a bit. That was so painful to watch last year with Nico, where he was so clear they didn't trust that guy. And I hope that happens. For the defensive side of the ball, I can go first on this one. And I was looking to make sure. I'm going to say this season will be Hypel's record for sacks in a season by a defensive line, which would, to give you some reference, last year, 29 sacks, 2023, 41. So, I mean, that would be a big number to beat that. 2022, 31, and then 2021 was 34. So they'd have to get at least 42. And I'll say that they do that this season. This defense is, I have seen some folks at the national level finally giving it kind of recognition. I think this defense got some nasty work brewing. Now, you do have a depth injury on your defensive line, but he's not necessarily a guy that I think is going to just be racking up sacks. So I'll say that there's a bold prediction for your defense.
Yeah, I think my first one is also along with the defensive line. And to yours, well, I'm going to go with mine first. It's not really a number so much as I think Bryson Evans is going to have a massive year. I don't know what the numbers will look like because defensive line and kind of being on the interior a little bit the numbers don't always show the impact that a player makes. But I think he's going to play himself into being like a second or third round pick. They've always loved his talent. And he's just continued to progress as a player. And he's a great example of why development's not always linear. Like there's a lot of the mental side of it and just applying yourself in certain ways. And I think he's grown a lot as a player. And I think this is the year that it really all comes together for him. And he takes a big jump and ends up being one of your most dominant defensive linemen. And I said, I think he, kind of like Omar Norman Lott in a way last season. And maybe he ends up being, second, third round pick in the NFL draft. And to your point about the sacks real quick, last year that number kind of jumps out how it was lower last year. I think that was just a product of so many teams game planning against James Pierce, game planning to get the ball out quickly and to avoid putting your quarterback in those situations to just get destroyed by James Pierce. You lose Pierce this year, but I think you've got a lot of guys that can rush the quarterback, and Josephs and Herring, Jordan Ross, that it's going to be harder to game plan against that, I think.
Yeah, you got dogs on that defensive line, period. And I think of the linebacker spot too. If it was going to be a singular player to break that, the under Hypel sack record, James Pierce had 10 in 2023, so you'd have to get 11. Could Josephs get there? Maybe. I think he's a dog. But I just think that they're going to be pretty nasty. And my second defensive bold prediction will be this: Tennessee's defense as a whole, because it's so hard right now to judge exactly outside of the defensive line. I think it's hard to judge like real personal accolades with some of these guys. Maybe you have one on your second prediction, but I'll say the defense as a whole wins Tennessee one of Georgia, Alabama, or Florida. Tennessee wins one of those games, and it's because of the defense. Clearly, you only score 17 points and somehow beat Alabama or something along those lines. And I just think they got a similar vibe to them to last year, where they're gonna have to help the offense at times. And I think they'll have the ability to do that. Will it be better than last year? Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'll say that one. The defense wins Tennessee one of the big three.
Oh, well, they're probably going to have to, because defense is going to have to play well, especially on the road against Florida and Alabama. It's tough to ask your offense to go in there and win those games just in those environments. I don't care who it is. Those are tough crowds to win in front of, and for your offense to play well in front of.
It has to be Florida. That if I'm picking one of those three, obviously Georgia at home would be incredible. But speaking as realistically as possible, just going into the swamp, like holding them down to maybe like a 17-point performance, a 21-17 win, something like that, I would be the happiest person on planet Earth if they could do that. Yeah, it would be so nice.
I mean, any of those would be amazing to win one of those three or more. Go win all three of them. Hey, go win them all. But if I had to pick,
please.
If you're like, all right, you can only have one of these, I would take winning in the swamp, just because of how many heartbreaking losses you've had down there over the last 10, 15 years. I mean, Alabama, you've been close a couple of times. 23, you should have won that game. 2015, you should have won that game. 2009, you should have won that game. 21, you were in that game into the fourth quarter, and you just didn't have enough depth to close it out. But Florida, man, there's so many games down there in the swamp that they've lost that they absolutely should have won. This series should not look anything like it does right now, especially against some of these not great Florida teams. Plus, that game's near the end of the season. You want to keep Florida down. You got to keep them down right now. I mean, that's you got to take advantage of that. You cannot let Billy Napier gain any momentum. They're recruiting well enough as it is, but you really want to keep that one down. You've dealt with Alabama and Georgia. That's no fun, them being at the top of their game and getting all the guys they want. But it's kind of manageable. Florida, I don't know. You got to keep them down.
How many times have you been the better team in that stupid matchup in the last 15 years?
Yeah.
And lost. This better be the year. All right, last final bold prediction for the defense.
All right. I'm going to say that Jermod McCoy still leads the team in interceptions, even though he's, almost certainly going to miss at least the first couple of games of the season. We don't know when he's going to be back, but he's really attacked this rehab and itching to go. So I'm very encouraged about where he's at in his rehab. You never know how that's going to go for guys, but I think he understands what type of opportunity he has. The only reason I would think this might not happen is if they just don't let him go until October or November, at which point he might have a decision to make if he even wants to play, because he could be a first round pick coming out next year. Hard to predict that, but I'm going to say he comes back. His first game is Georgia, and he just still ends up leading the team in interceptions because the teams can't throw away from him. because you got Hood, you got Ricky Gibson that are also going to be able to come in and play opposite McCoy and just make things kind of a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks.
I like it a lot. Need him back badly, even though I do like the set of guys that you have. But he needs to come back ASAP.
Yeah, it might be the best your secondaries looked in this whole time under Hypel and Tim Banks and Willie Martinez.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, you got a true freshman, Redmond, that's probably going to be able to play early for you too if you need him. I mean, it's exciting. They've got some dudes on defense. I mean, that's kind of like, we know it as Tennessee fans and everybody that follows Tennessee. Like, you understand how well Tennessee's recruited on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think people around the country really fully grasp that last year wasn't a fluke. Like, this defense has slowly been building to this over the last few years. Like, this is sustainable. That wasn't just like, oh, they missed their opportunity with that defense. I think you're going to keep seeing these defenses. And we'll see what happens with Tim Banks if he ends up getting a head coaching job. Even if he does, I think you've had so much continuity on that side of the ball that you're going to be able to make a really good hire, and you're going to be an attractive job for somebody.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if he finally gets a head coaching spot after this season if they have a big year. Kyle in the comments, he calls his shot. He says, I say the defense holds teams to 12.5 points a game this year. That would be very nice and lead to a lot of wins. To Tholta, however you say this. He says, I think Joey will be Iceman 2.0 and beat Florida in the swamp. Oh,
man.
Please.
He'll be please. That guy, he can just ask Hendon Hooker how fans will feel about him if he does something like that. But, man, you would be one and done at Tennessee, and you'd still be a legend if you went down there and led Tennessee to their first win in the swamp since 2003. I mean, that's
if you came in, even if that's just what gets you to a 9-3 season, like you lose to Alabama, you lose to Georgia, and that gets you to 9-3. Not the most spectacular season of all time, but if that gets you there, and just after the Nico thing, you're the guy that comes in, you trade essentially for Nico, and you come in and you're the guy that wins in the swamp. Absolute legendary status. And that goes for any of those big three games. If he beats Georgia, if he wins in Tuscaloosa, if he beats Florida in the swamp, any of those would count towards that. But man, please win in the swamp.
You give me 9-3 with a win in the swamp, and that's a fun season. I mean, that's the way I look at college football, right? It's not championship or bust to me. I don't think that. I mean, you're robbing yourself of the whole experience of the sport if you don't win a championship or if you don't make the playoff, the season was a disaster. And it's not necessarily true. I mean, you don't want to go 7-5, right? Like, nobody wants that. But the whole point of college football is those moments, right? Those Saturdays. And if you get a Saturday where you beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa or you beat Florida in the swamp, I mean, how many of those have you had? You haven't had any of those over the past 2 decades. Give me a 10-win season with that. Yeah, you want more. You want a championship. You want to celebrate that. Tennessee fans deserve to celebrate that. But, we remember all the 5-7s under Dooley and Butch and 3-7 under Pruitt. Like, those are seasons that are not that long ago that happened. I think 10-3, 9-3, whatever, with a win over some of your rivals would be a pretty special season and something you can continue to build on, especially considering, the circumstances going into this season and the roster stuff that Tennessee's had to deal with.
That would be A-okay by me. Would be a great season on Hypel's part.
As long as you're beating your rivals semi-regular, and you haven't beat Georgia yet, but Hypel's done pretty well against Florida and Alabama. He's 2-2 against both. As long as you're beating your rivals, I feel like your positive momentum is going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me that through 4 years, Hypel is 2-2 against Florida and Alabama, I would be like, this man is a miracle worker. We need to be, fanning him with palm fronds and kissing his feet. That is just like truly unbelievable. And yeah, reality ends up being a little more nuanced than that, but that would be awesome. All right. Speaking of how the season will go, next week is game week. Oh, it's so close. And that means we're going to do our full preview and prediction for the season. We do it every single year. We are super wrong every single year.
We weren't too
And
bad in
that
22. In fact, I think we might have
true.
undersold them that year.
And Jonathan Crompton, game day show with myself and Jonathan Crompton. Don't miss it here on this A2Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers channel. But in 2022, he was probably the first person that I talked to that was like 10 wins. They're going to get 10 wins this year. This is a 10-win team. Put it down, mark it down. They beat, I think he called from afar, Alabama. Going to beat Alabama. Yeah. So we got some good predictions on this channel, just maybe not for me and Zach, but that's it. All right. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. I cannot wait. You're gonna watch what is it, Farmageddon live from Ireland this weekend between Kansas State and Iowa State. And then Hawaii and Stanford is that night. Man, it's gonna be a good weekend. So excited. My wife's gonna hate it. That's it. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We could not do this without you. You know where to find us all over the social medias and all those places. That is it. All right. The next time we talk, it's going to be game week. Let's go. All right. And we will talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.